failures and food shortages this fall, and when that happens, they're going to blame global warming, they're going to continue the false narrative, and they're going to continue to say that it's our fault because of all of the CO2 that we're producing. But that's just not the case. We need to look at the real data. Let me show you the real data. The real data is not so much the temperature as it is something called the growing degree days. Have you ever heard of this? I never had really until recently. Growing degree days, or growing degree units, GDU, is a measurement that agriculture uses to figure out if and how food or crops are going to come to maturity. It's a measurement of accumulated heat. It's a measurement of heat over a longer period of time. Now they have a specific formula that they use to figure out the growing degree days. It's not just one day is one growing degree day. You take the low temperature of the day, the high temperature of the day, add them together to divide by 2 to get the average, and then you subtract from that whatever. For corn, you subtract 50. It's whatever the lowest temperature is that crop can grow. So if you have a low of 50 and a high of 86 and you put it through the formula, it comes out with 18 growing degree days. But if it doesn't get as cold at night, you have a low of 74 and it goes up to 86 during the day. In the formula, you have 30 growing degree days for that one day. For a much better explanation, because I'm not a scientist, I can't explain it that well. Here's a little video I'll put right up here. It's only a 3 or 4 minute video of an ag company discussing what the growing degree day really is and how to measure it. To give you a little bit more of an understanding. I'll also put it in the description down below. So if you want to pause this video and go watch that, you can do that. But basically, they measure how much growing time any crop has based on the weather. For instance, corn cannot grow below 50 degrees or above 86 degrees. So if it drops below 40 or below 50 degrees at night, it's going to stop growing, or if it goes above 86 degrees. So what that means is that if you have an 80 degree day and it looks a beautiful day and the corn is growing, and then at night it drops down to 45, as soon as it drops below 50, the corn is going to stop growing until the next day when it gets warm again. If you have the same kind of 80 degree day, which is beautiful, and then it only goes down to 60 at night, well, that's not cold enough to stop the growth, and it'll continue to grow right on through. So if it drops down to 45 and the growth stops, the corn's not going to grow as fast or as well as if it only drops down to 60. So that's what the growing degree day measures, is how much accumulated warmth or temperature there is over a period of time to allow the crops to grow. Now, first of all, let me say that a lot of the information that I got, that I'm using in this video, I got from another YouTube channel called Ice Age Farmer. And I will put a link up here for the video that I'm talking about. It goes into much more depth than I do. I'll also put a link down below so you can see the video from Ice Age Farmer, who discussed all of this, and I thank him for giving me that information. I want to give him a shout out because that's where a lot of this information came from. Now, the fact of the matter is, the growing degree days are lower this year than they were last year, all over the country, considerably lower. Here's a website where you can check on your local zip code or your county or your state to see what the growing degree days are doing. Let's go ahead and look at the website. Now, this is a website from Greencast, which is a major agricultural company, and this is a chart that they have up here to show the GDD, or the growing degree days, for any given location. You see over here, you can put in your zip code, and this is the zip code for Greensboro, North Carolina. And this shows for each individual day, it shows the growing degree days for that day, and then for the year-to-date total. And like I said, you can search any zip code that you want on this, and this is the basic raw data. The issue here is that you can only see the year here or the date here. You have to go back and change the date in order to see last year so that you can compare what this year is with last year. So I'll put a link to this website in the description if you want to take a look at this. But actually, Ice Age Farmer put together another tool that he put on his website that will compare. It takes this data and it compares this year, the current, with last year. So let's go ahead and look at that. Now this is the Ice Age Farmer website, and I will put a link for this one down below as well. But you can see here, you can put in a zip code, you can put in your zip code, or you can put in a state if you want. So let's go ahead and put in, say, Kansas. Big growing state, right? So here's Kansas, and over here you see that it'll show every county in Kansas. And over here on the right, it shows the percent of change from last year. And you can see here that Kansas is like 14, 15, 22% down, 13%, 16%, 18, 19%, 20%. All across the board, all the way through Kansas, there are less growing degree days than there were last year. Let's look at Colorado. Once again, here, Alamosa, Colorado, down 30, almost 31%. There's a 26%. There's another 30%. 39%. Here's a 43%, down 43% from last year in the growing degree days. This is significant, folks. There's another 35%. And you can look at practically any state in the country and you're going to find the same thing. Here's Iowa. Once again, down 20, 25%, 20%. This is very significant. So I really want to thank Ice Age Farmer for doing the work and putting together that tool that we can see, that we can compare this year with last year with the growing degree days and see what's happening. The fact is it's down all across the board. When you look at the United States, it's down in 48 states. The only ones that are not is Florida, which is about the same as last year, and Alaska, which is actually above where it was last year. But in 48 states, even including Hawaii, the growing degree days are down considerably from last year. So what does this mean? It means that crops just simply aren't going to be able to mature correctly like they should. Each crop has its own required GDD in order to be able to come to maturity. And like for instance, corn requires 2,000 growing degree days in order to mature. And here's the shocking thing. There are 5,277 zip codes in the United States that were over 2,000 GDD last year that were able to grow food or grow corn that are under 2,000 this year, so they can no longer grow corn. 5,277 zip codes could not grow corn this year that could grow corn last year. So you think, okay, big deal, I don't eat corn, I don't like corn. There are all kinds of ramifications of corn not producing properly. We use corn in our gasoline, to increase the volume of the gasoline, usually 10 or 15%. Corn is one of the major things that farmers use for fodder for their animals that we eat, pigs, corn, that sort of thing. Cows, that sort of thing. So it'll have major ramifications all through our economy. Oats is another thing. Oats take 1,500 GDD in order to come to maturity. And last year there were 1,813 zip codes that were able to grow oats that cannot grow oats this year because it didn't reach the minimum required amount of GDD. Now, these places can no longer grow corn or oats. And it's not because of the rain that we had. It's because of the cold. It's not because of the major flooding that we had in the spring. It's because of the cold. It's because there were not enough growing degree days during the summer for these crops to come to maturity. And we're heading into the grand solar minimum, folks. And as the grand solar minimum forces the decline of temperatures even more across this planet, there will be more and more areas on the planet that we used to be able to grow food that we will no longer be able to grow because of the cold, because of the lower GDD. It's already happening. This is only the first year, and we're going further and further into the grand solar minimum. I expect that it's going to be getting worse every year. It's expected that we're going to have 1.5 billion bushel deficit of corn production this year. There's no way that the USDA is going to be able to hide that. They're going to have to make an announcement, and it's going to be soon, that there's a major deficit in the amount of corn. And of course, they're going to blame global warming and blame us for it. But I wanted to make this video to show you the facts that it's not global warming. It was a cold summer, even though they say that it was the hottest July on record. It was a cold summer. The growing degree day data shows that, and because of that, there are many crops that are not going to come into production this year. And then they got a late start in the spring because of the flooding, and then they haven't grown, they haven't thrived because of the cold season, and there is expected to be an early frost as well this fall. So we're in trouble, folks, and it's just going to get worse every year. You know, some people have asked me, a lot of people have asked me, what is the timing of this grand solar minimum that you're talking about? Well, it's going to get worse every year starting now until the worst of it is expected to be between 2024 and 2028, and then it'll start to improve again. And what we're seeing is just the beginning of that downturn of worldwide cold weather crop losses. So I'm not trying to be, fear-mongering here. I'm just trying to let you know what we are facing. And the best thing that we can do to prepare for it is to start now. Start prepping now. Start buying and storing as much food as you can. Start growing as much food as you can. Start making plans for growing. Of course, if you're going to grow a garden and you live anywhere, in the north, you're going to have the same problems as the farmers. That you're going to have to face the same lower growing degree days, and you're going to have the same kind of problems with your garden. But here's the thing. Large commercial farmers, they grow stuff out in the fields. There's nothing else they can do but grow things in the fields. But for people with individual gardens in their backyard, you can build a greenhouse, you can just cover the plants, you can bring them inside, you can do container gardening where you can grow them inside until the weather's good and then take them out, that sort of thing. You can do a lot of cold weather crop variations that large commercial farmers that plant thousands of acres just don't have the ability to do. So the whole point of this is to let you know what's happening, and that the crop losses are actually from the cold, not from the global warming that they are going to claim, and to begin to prepare now. Now's the time, folks. Get on it. Now's the time. So I don't want to scare you, I want to prepare you, and I hope this has been helpful. And in your discussions with other people who still believe in the global warming false narrative, this is information that you can show them that it's actually cold weather that's causing the problems, not the heat. Elizabeth and I will be buying all of our gardening supplies, our seeds for our garden, and for microgreens and sprouts from True Leaf Market. It's a great place online to be able to buy that sort of thing. There's a link down below in the description of this video to take you to True Leaf Market. Check it out. I hope that's helpful as we go on, we face this together. You be blessed. Live simple, live free.